Okay, my dudes, it looks like we are live. Let me get everything set up. Let me get a notification sent out in Discord. And I know this is not going to be as fun as our other mock drafts because literally every mock draft, every real draft that we've done over there on Patreon this entire offseason, we have done a super flex mock draft. But this one, we are going to be doing a one quarterback for all the one quarterback sickos over there on Patreon. I literally had no idea how many people played in one quarterback league still. I quit all my own one quarterback leagues, I believe back in 2018, maybe 2019. And I never looked back, but I spend, I want to say probably 90% of my day actually going through and making in-depth Dynasty team breakdowns for everybody over there on Patreon, where we release them as podcast. And about 75% of those are actually one quarterback leagues. And I just had no idea that many people played in them. So yeah, we are going to be getting this going for all of y'all. Let me pull up this live stream real quick to make sure that all our audio and stuff is good. Okay, it looks like it is fine. Okay, so it looks like people are excited about it being a one quarterback draft. The sixth win says, I don't mind seeing super flex at all, but I get chub when you give me a one quarterback draft. Okay, yeah, let's get this going. Let me grab a link to Patreon real quick for everybody. That way you don't have to leave YouTube. Just shoot me that DM, because let me remind everyone how we do these mock drafts is I guarantee you, if you are on Patreon, if you want in the mock draft, I mean, you're going to have a spot. You just need to shoot me the DM over there. And then, yeah, you have that guaranteed spot. And then if not, if that doesn't get filled through Patreon, we will go through with everybody that's subscribed to the channel. A part of the notification gang comes out to our video premieres and send out the link in the general chat so the rest of the people can take the spots. But yeah, let me grab that link right now, and then we will be getting this going. So we also are having a Dynasty Patreon startup that is going off the 17th. So we will be live streaming then, of course, doing that. And no, that's not going to be a one quarterback link. That is going to be a super flex, of course, because I refuse to play in any real one quarterback leagues at this point. I know I sound like an ass, but just trading is so much more fun. Rookie drafts are more fun. Literally, I think pretty much everything that we look at is better when it comes to playing in those super flex leagues compared to a one QB league. But I know some people don't like it. That's their preference. So we are going to be doing this mock draft. Now let me run over real quick, grab the link to the draft and start sending it out to the messages on Patreon. Okay. So it looks like we got a lot of people shooting us those DMs. Okay. Adam just hooked you up, my man. Joe, Carl, Dirtbag, Geo, Samuel, Zach, Jesse, Ben. Okay, and also we grabbed the 106. We got you, Drew, just sending that out. Just because with the 106, I think it's a very nice spot where we can continue to talk about our picks as they come up, and we don't necessarily just have to sit around doing nothing forever. So yeah, let me also make sure that we only have a 60-second timer on this mock draft. I think a 60-second timer is actually going to be a nice medium. We tried a 30-second the other day, but that was just way too fast. Okay, we are set on 60 seconds. Now, let's see. Maroon says, I prefer Superflex, but all the leagues I am in, my friends always want to do one quarterback. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're going to be doing this. I know that we were being an ass at the beginning of the offseason where I went out and I said I wasn't going to be doing this at all. But no, that was my fault. I apologize for that, guys. We're going to be going back on our word, and we are going to be getting a one quarterback league out. Talon says, don't forget to smash that like button, people. Do it. Yes, sir. We are almost over 20 likes. I believe 3 minutes into this live stream. So, of course, that is absolutely massive. And, yeah, we got 4 more spots. Let me just make sure we don't have any more Patreon messages. Then we'll send that out in the general chat. Thomas, I got you, my man, sending it out. We get Thomas, our boy, the guy editing all our videos for us, coming into this mock draft. Happy to see that. Yeah, let's let Thomas join real quick. Then I will send out the link in the general chat for everybody who has that notification bell hit and came out so early. They can take the last, I believe we're going to have 2 more spots after Thomas joins. Okay. Casey says, hey, if I join the Patreon, are there any other leagues going on? Yeah, so we are going to be opening up, I believe, about 5 more Patreon startups this offseason. So yeah, how we do those is essentially I will come out and I'll make an announcement on Patreon. I'll say, hey, on this date, we are going to have a draft at this time. If you're available to me and you want in, here are the league settings. Shoot me a DM. The first 11 people to shoot me a DM get into the league. Of course, people who have not already been in a league before. But yeah, we'll have more coming this offseason, but probably not until I move into the new studio, which should be at the end of the month. That's when we'll make our next announcement. Okay, so it looks like we have, I believe, actually, I may have overestimated on the amount of spots that we were going to have available. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. I do not think we're going to have any spots available for the general chat right now. I think that's only going to go to Patreon. Like I said, usually the people in the general chat get a few spots, but let me pop this up real quick for everybody. Okay, so now let's start this draft, and we just got a donation from Wanted Alex over there on Discord, making something for us for the new studio. Excited about it. Says Watson, Devonta Smith, Elijah Moore for Lamar Jackson and a future second. 12-team Superflex, 6-point boosted per touchdown. Tight end premium as well. Also, fix your life and like the video. Yes, sir. I mean, there are so many people that have already dropped likes on this video. I think that almost everybody watching this live stream probably has already. So essentially, I want to say that really the settings don't matter too much here in terms of the tight end premium. Maybe you can make the argument that it boosts up the second value a little bit, but not necessarily. So you're looking at Watson, Devonta Smith, and Elijah Moore for Lamar Jackson. Now, I will say that if you're a rebuilding roster, this answer is about the easiest answer ever. All you do is you go with Deshaun Watson, Devonta Smith, and Elijah Moore, understanding that Deshaun Watson most likely is going to be playing in 2022. I mean, this is a player that hasn't even been ruled out this upcoming season. Now, let's get our pick in here real quick. I really thought that we were going to get Cam Akers falling to us at the 105. Now, I know people are not going to agree with this selection. I know a lot of people are going to be screaming at me to go with Alvin Kamara. And in a redraft league, yes, Alvin Kamara is 100% the best value. But instead, we're going to be going way down the draft board here. We're going to be drafting our running back 5 in our Dynasty rankings over there on Patreon. We're going to be getting Najee Harris, understanding that this is a running back that is already going in the first round of high-stakes redraft formats. And he has 5 years on that rookie contract if you count the team option as well. So Najee Harris, I know it's a reach there at the 106, but given the league settings, I think that's what we're going to be going with. But anyway, getting back to this Watson question, a big thing is with it being 6-point per passing touchdown, that's actually going to devalue Lamar Jackson for me. And I know that you would naturally assume that 6-point per passing touchdown increases all quarterback value as it's going to be making up a higher percentage of your starting lineup output. But what happens and what makes Lamar Jackson so valuable in fantasy is when you're only getting 4 points per passing touchdown, it really makes it a little bit unbalanced in terms of having to go out and getting those rushing quarterbacks when we know that rushing is going to drive so much of their production. Well, when you make it a 6-point passing touchdown league, quarterbacks like Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, I mean, the passing volume actually allows them to have a large step up in terms of the gap that they have between Lamar Jackson and themselves. So I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on this, but I think we actually decide to go with Deshaun Watson here instead of Lamar Jackson when we're getting both Devonta Smith and Elijah Moore on top of it. So yeah, I know that's not going to be a popular opinion, but I think we go Watson there. Even if you're if you're a contending team, it's going to be a hard trade to sell. But I think that if you're just looking at it in a macro sense, that's going to be a deal that we would like to have. Okay, Garrett says, give me my running back 4 in Dynasty, Cam Akers. Yeah, I mean, I thought that someone was going to go Kamara before us. Garrett, I thought you were most likely going to go with him. And I thought we were going to get Cam Akers at the 106. But, I mean, we have to pivot where we're pivoting. And so this is a big thing that you're going to find in a 1 quarterback draft compared to a Superflex draft is, I mean, the talent is going to dry up a lot quicker than you would. Okay, now obviously we have to understand that Kelsey, Hill go here, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So if we are going to be taking the first quarterback off the board, we are most likely going to have to do it at the 306 because I doubt that 3 teams within 6 picks here would decide to pass on Patrick Mahomes for that stack. So yeah, Justin Jefferson going after DeAndre Swift. Okay, so M says Juju, Jacobs, and Sanders for Christian McCaffrey. Okay, so there, man, so much matters in this. This is a big thing I do on Patreon as well that a lot of people don't necessarily fully understand on how to take advantage of their league settings and how important starting lineup requirements, league size, and scoring all go into this, as well as roster size as well. So, I mean, if you're looking at this trade, going Juju, Jacobs, Sanders for Christian McCaffrey, the majority of leagues that I actually break down over there on Patreon, I'm surprised to see this, but a lot of them are like 10-man leagues where you're only starting 8 to 9 players. In a format like that, you just go studs, studs, studs. Christian McCaffrey is the easy answer there. Now, a lot of flock leagues that we play in, there we are making it where they're all 12-team leagues. You start anywhere from 11 to 12 players, where depth matters a whole lot more than you'd be finding elsewhere. So in a format like that, then you start to be a little bit more interested in the package. And so that's why it's really hard for me to answer trade questions in a vacuum. I know people can do it without like thinking about it just because you just go, oh, I want the player that's the best. No, it's so much goes into it when you've played in Dynasty so long in so many different formats. Understanding how to optimize for your format is very important. And that's why I make those podcasts every day on Patreon. But here we're going to go with DK Metcalf, a very easy answer, unless maybe we go through and look at the running back position. But DK Metcalf, our wide receiver 1. Dobbins is intriguing here given the running back fall off that we can be potentially seeing soon. But given the fact that we start 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes in this league, I think wide receiver does get the slight bump up. And this is another instance of having to adjust for your starting lineup requirements, having to adjust for your actual format. In this league, if we only started 1 flex or we started 2 wide receivers instead of 3, the amount of wide receiver depth that you would actually need to have on a team would drastically go down, where you're going to prioritize the running back here. But this is a good tiebreaker to have to go with DK Metcalf over J.K. Dobbins. That way we can begin to fill out and have depth where we need it. Okay. So N says, who are some other trusted fantasy sources? Okay, so if y'all are talking Dynasty, there's really, I don't want to say really anybody beyond one person. And he actually used to record videos with us a long time ago. And this is what I kind of criticized a lot with the fantasy community is y'all kind of know when y'all play in so many leagues with me that I've been playing for a very long time. I've been playing with a lot of volume and a lot of my own money for a very long time. And it's obsessed my life to a point where I really understand trade values. I really understand roster construction for different settings. Where a lot of people that pump out podcasts, pump out YouTube videos, you can pull it up. And I'm sure so many people in this live stream right now, if you play in 10 plus Dynasty leagues, you are smarter and you are a better Dynasty player than 99% of people making videos, making podcasts. Because a lot of people pumping out content don't actually play, which is the craziest thing to believe, but it's actually true. You can watch a video and you can understand it. But somebody that plays a ton, someone that plays more than we do, and I would argue has a better understanding of how to take advantage of league format and roster construction, is actually going to be Scott Connor. He hosts Dynasty and Chill on Apple Podcast. Obviously, this is not a paid advertisement or anything. It's just if you want something that I can get behind and I can recommend, that's going to be what I'm doing, because we're looking for people that have actually played in Dynasty for a long time, people that have played in a lot of leagues and know what they're talking about. The majority of people that are pumping out content that doesn't check those boxes, but Scott Connor with Dynasty and Chill does. Okay. So Garrett says, hated pressing the draft button on J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins at the 208, I think is perfectly fine. I mean, going through, getting those 2 running backs on their rookie deals. Like we said, I mean, DK Metcalf, my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty right now. We did have A.J. Brown over DK Metcalf before the Julio Jones trade, but they're all in the same tier. I mean, we have Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, all in the same tier in our Dynasty rankings. Now, DK Metcalf does jump up to number 1 with the Julio Jones trade, but I wouldn't be mad about you taking anybody over any of those options. Okay, so Robert says, need help, trade in a Dynasty league, DJ Moore for TJ Hawkinson. That's another example where league settings matter so much, man. So here, Weezpaw decides to go with Josh Allen to stack with Stephon Diggs. Now, this is interesting because obviously Josh Allen appears as a reach when he goes before Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't necessarily want to say it's a really bad pick, because the problem with the mock draft like this is when you're selecting at the end here, you don't necessarily have the luxury of just hoping that a player falls back to you. Maybe Josh Allen would have fell back to the 411. So I don't know if we love that pick, but it's really hard to criticize teams when they're picking at the ends here, because, you know, if you want your guy, you can't necessarily just sit back and relax and have them fall to you like we did here with potentially the guy we are going to be going with. Let me just scroll through the positions real quick to make sure we're not missing out on anything. Yeah, so here it's going to be an easy answer. We are going to be going with George Kittle. I actually prefer in redraft leagues to go with Darren Waller, given the fact that Darren Waller doesn't really have any target competition at all for this upcoming season. But if you're talking about long-term value, I definitely prefer the talent profile of a Kyle Pitts, and he's a year younger. So we're going to be going with Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller when they're in the same tier for redraft leagues for me this year regardless. Okay. So now let's go through, see if we have anything else. Wilkins says 2 future first and Trey Lance for Dalvin Cook and Lamar Jackson in a super flex format. That's going to be literally, are you contending? Are you rebuilding? There's not much more to say beyond that. I'm very sorry about that. I will say that I would imagine that the market value for both Dalvin Cook and Lamar Jackson is higher than what you have with 2 future first and Trey Lance. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from someone who is ridiculously high on Trey Lance. But yeah, I think you actually have to ask for slightly more if you're going to be giving up Dalvin Cook and Lamar Jackson. Okay, so Chris Godwin at the 308. Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see if any of these teams right here decide to take Patrick Mahomes, because it would provide them the opportunity to stack with one of those, the trifecta of the Kansas City Chiefs players. Okay, Grant says Kittle or Kyle Pitts. Man, I literally just answered this question by drafting George Kittle over Kyle Pitts. Okay, so Godwin, Miles Sanders going directly after us. So honestly, a wide receiver that I think is a decent value here. I don't know if we should be saying stuff like that just because I don't want to skew the draft board. Okay, so we do have Smitty here deciding to go with Patrick Mahomes to stack with Travis Kelce. So it looks like this is definitely going to be a win now team with Adams, Kelce, and Mahomes, even though, yeah, Mahomes is a long-term asset, but still, I think that we can classify that as a win now team. Now, Eckler at the 312. I really like the pace that we were going in this mock draft. I mean, the last mock draft that we did had some timeouts. It was incredibly annoying, but yeah, I think that this is a very nice pace to have. Okay, James says, Mason, your multitasking ability is next level. I couldn't do it. Yeah, yes, sir. That's why it's honestly definitely harder to draft as we go through live stream, talk about other picks, and do everything like this. But I think that we are just kind of preparing ourselves that way when we are in those real money leagues. Like you said, we are opening up another Flock Patreon league on the 17th this month. I'm able to go through and stream them, talk about them, and draft at the same time. Now, we don't have our rankings pulled up for this draft, but those real drafts, I'm definitely going to have my rankings, and we can just go off of those. But now, I think we can just kind of naturally go about it. If I take a player, if I take my running back 19 over my running back 18 here, just because I'm having to do all these multitasking things, it's a mock draft. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Tyler says, what would you put as a budget percentage in a Superflex startup in an auction for Trey Lance? Definitely going to depend on how many starters you have in your starting lineup. Going to depend on your roster requirements in terms of how many guys you're going. Are you building out a 30-man roster, a 35-man roster, and also the league size? But I would say a good bet to have with the Trey Lance would be about, I'm so hard to ask this because, I mean, if y'all were around whenever we live streamed our auction draft, now it was a live auction draft, so definitely that was so hard to multitask through. I mean, we got killed. Chinder came out and wiped the floor with everybody by saving his money until the end. So we can say out loud that I would like the idea of spending 9 to 11% on Trey Lance, but I mean, I could be completely off there. I don't want to act like I'm an expert in that at all. Okay. So Jamar Chase going at the 403. Now, y'all know I've literally been on record saying Jamar Chase is an overrated asset in Dynasty when he's going ahead of Travis Etienne, when he's going ahead of Kyle Pitts. But no, here, I think getting him in that range is perfectly fine. So now we are up at the 407. We're going to go through and see what we have available to us. Okay, Javonte Williams goes at the 405. I would have really liked to have Javonte Williams. Now, I think we do go wide receiver because Kyle Pitts is a great value here. I think we would prefer having Kyle Pitts at the 407 compared to George Kittle at the 306. But once we take Kittle in a non-tight end premium format, our roster construction is kind of locked in to making that bet, and we're not wanting to have to flex a tight end every single week. So here instead, we're going to be going with T. Higgins, a player that I'm significantly higher on compared to consensus. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be looking at that as a reach, but T. Higgins, when he and Joe Burrow both started together in 2021, he was a top 10 wide receiver in points per game. Now, yes, Jamar Chase comes in, but there are a lot of targets leaving this offense in A.J. Green and Giovanni Bernard, so I really like T. Higgins there at the 407. Okay, Luke says, when is the next redraft mock? live stream, or I was honestly planning on doing a redraft mock live stream today instead of a Dynasty one. And then I rolled out of bed this morning. I premiered the main video that we had attached to that redraft account. And I was like, well, crap, looks like we can't stream on here today. So yeah, I was planning on doing it today. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. I know so many other people do like mock drafts and stuff on Monday. So maybe we'll do it on Wednesday instead. Short answer is, I don't know, my man. Okay, Nolan says, do you think Fields and Lance hold value in redraft? I'm actually higher than consensus on both Justin Fields and Trey Lance in one quarterback redraft leagues, because a big thing in a redraft format is literally the only thing that matters at the quarterback position. And the only thing that matters is your ceiling. Now, obviously in a Dynasty Superflex league, you need to have a high floor. You need to have that job security attached to it, which is why I was a little bit concerned on the Justin Fields draft price when he was going as a second round pick in startup drafts, when he was going as the 102 in rookie drafts. There, I was screaming that Justin Fields was an overrated asset. But in a one quarterback league, when all you need is upside, and we know both of those rookie quarterbacks possess elite rushing upside, and we know that they could be great real life NFL quarterbacks, I am all in. I'm higher than consensus on both Trey Lance and Justin Fields. We actually just made a Chicago Bears video for the redraft channel, and I went through and released that we are going to have Justin Fields as our quarterback 16 in redraft leagues. I hope I am remembering that correctly. And I know his consensus in redraft leagues right now, according to ADP, is actually quarterback 20. Okay, so now let's go. And what's interesting, Jack Apples here has a great start, going very young, running back, and Kyle Pitts at the 408. Really like that start. Now here, Uncle Piff does get the stack with DeAndre Hopkins in the third, Kyler Murray in the fourth. So he also has definitely a win now team with Dalvin, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray. Should be set up to dominate this upcoming season. Now I'll say the long-term value is in question there. But yeah, that's a team that should score a lot of points right away. Okay, so guys, 50 likes on the live stream. Thank you so much, guys, for coming out, dropping those likes. And Dan says, why don't you like Robert Tonyan in Dynasty? LaFleur said he'll be featured moving forward. Okay, man, like we said, coach speak there really does not matter too much. And on top of this, if you look at Robert Tonyan last year, such a high percentage, I believe it was like 23% of his production actually came from scoring touchdowns. What is the one thing that we know does not correlate strongly season to season? It's actually touchdowns, where what you want to chase is you want to chase targets. And Robert Tonyan wasn't great with his target share last year. So yeah, that's why I'm going to be lower than consensus on Robert Tonyan. Okay, so Hawkinson at the 502. So Weespaw has a very balanced start so far. Taylor, Diggs, Allen, Carson, Hawkinson. We have a really balanced start as well. I mean, I definitely think, based on seeing this board fall, that taking Josh Allen at the beginning of the third was definitely a reach. I mean, I understand wanting to get the stack with Stephon Diggs, but I mean, when Lamar Jackson would have been available to you in the fifth, I think that stack isn't that important where you have to go out of your way and you have to give up on a CeeDee Lamb. And instead, like, would you rather have Lamar Jackson and CeeDee Lamb, or would you rather have Josh Allen and TJ Hawkinson? I definitely would prefer having Lamar Jackson and CeeDee Lamb. Okay, so let's go through real quick. I see that we accidentally just sent out a link to the mock draft in the chat, so let's remove that. Okay, so now let's see what we are going to be going with. Now, QB, I know there are some appealing options, and I know these would be seen as guys with good value, but honestly, I think we kind of go back to the wide receiver well here, especially in Dynasty in this format. I think wide receiver could kind of win you the league. So we're going to be going with Devonta Smith here at the 506. Now, I know this is going to be seen as a reach, but I believe we have him as our wide receiver 20 in our Dynasty rankings. And this is definitely after that. Chase Claypool at the 507, 100% a valid pick as well. I'm actually participating in a $500 Dynasty startup right now. And I'm actually a co-owner with a few other guys. And Claypool is someone that we just drafted over Devonta Smith. But Devonta Smith, Claypool, they're in the same tier. I'm completely fine going with Smith. Okay, so now let's go through, and a lot of people are talking about Javonte Williams. I will say I do prefer Travis Etienne over Javonte Williams in redraft leagues. Okay, it's not going to be by much. They're definitely in the same tier, but we currently do have Travis Etienne ranked higher. Okay, so Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy. So Randy says Jamar Chase over Devonta Smith. Yes, sir. Well, Jamar Chase also went at the beginning of the fourth here, which I said was good value. We have Jamar Chase as our wide receiver 10 in Dynasty. I made videos talking about why Jamar Chase was a very bad pick in rookie drafts because he's going over Kyle Pitts, Travis Etienne. He was going over Trey Lance and Justin Fields in Superflex leagues, which I didn't agree with. But if you're getting him at the 403 here in a startup, I actually really like that value. So we do have that wide receiver run going. So I'm glad that we have 3 wide receivers. Glad that we passed up on the quarterback position. What's going to be interesting is if we do have one of those elite quarterbacks in either Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott falling to us at the 607, what we're actually probably going to end up doing, okay, Lamar Jackson ends up going. So never mind. I was going to say what we are most likely going to do if we had one of those quarterbacks fall to us is we were going to pass because we have a string of 3 quarterbacks here already. So really we only had to worry about 2 teams going QB. But I do love the idea here, roster baiter, getting that stack of Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews at the 5-6 turn. I really like that because it naturally fell to you. I mean, you're not reaching to complete a stack there. You're just getting value where it is. Adam says, how do you feel about my team at the 103? Here, I don't necessarily understand the Justin Herbert selection. Now, yes, Justin Herbert is a quarterback that we loved last year. I have him in a lot of my own dynasty leagues. But I think at the 503, it's just a little bit too rich. I think we would have probably preferred to go wide receiver there with either Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith, or Chase Claypool. But that's just my personal preference. Like I said, guys, I am also not super diverse in how the market is in a 1 quarterback league at the moment. I just know about 1 quarterback redraft leagues, but all my dynasty leagues since about 2018, 2019 have been super flex. Okay, Dan says, I see in your rankings, Evan Ingram is ranked highly. Can you break that down a little bit? Okay, so Evan Ingram, essentially a tight end that has had volume season to season to season. At the same time, I'm not necessarily worried about Kenny Golladay taking that volume from him because Kenny Golladay is more so a field stretching wide receiver that's going to have an incredibly high ADOT. He's actually had one of the highest ADOTs in the NFL over the past few years. So if anything, he can potentially clear out space underneath for Evan Ingram to begin to see more efficient targets. So the addition of Golladay, the addition of Tony is not going to be making me drive Evan Ingram down our rankings. So we kind of just stay neutral on him. Okay, so Trey Sermon goes at the 606. So here, because we have 2 flex spots that are empty, I think that we can continue to hit wide receiver. Now, there are 2 guys that I'm going to be looking at in this range. I think we go with the guy that has the higher ADP because we know that it's a lot less likely that he actually falls to us. So we're going to be going with Juju Smith-Schuster here at the 607. Now, not in love with the pick, but I think it's completely fine. Yeah, I know that Cortland Sutton goes directly after him, but what's funny is Juju in 2020 put up a better season than Cortland Sutton has ever put up in his entire life, and Juju is a wide receiver that a lot of people assume that his 2020 was a massive disappointment, and for our expectations, it was a massive disappointment, but the dynasty narrative is a little bit skewed there, where I think at the 607 in a 1 quarterback league, that's a perfectly fine value. Okay, Nolan says Sutton or Jerry Jeudy this season. We currently have Cortland Sutton ranked, I believe, 2 spots ahead of Jerry Jeudy in our redraft rankings. Okay, Baca says, how do your dynasty rankings get affected by 4-point passing touchdowns and -4 points per interception? Okay, man, I'm going to be completely honest. I have never played in a league that's -4 points per interception. So, of course, I could figure that out. If you had a league like that, you want to shoot it to me on Patreon. We can do some research about the past 3 years with how that affects quarterback scoring and the quarterbacks you want to be targeting and avoiding based on prototype. But for now, yeah, I'm not going to be able to have a great opinion on that. Okay, so now looks like Sutton goes directly after us. Now at QB, there's Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Sean Watson. See, there are so many quarterbacks, and that's why I think a 1 quarterback league honestly isn't the best, just because it just skews everything when you don't have to start that second guy, because you can just wait and wait and wait and wait. Like, I think if you're looking at Josh Allen at the 302, and like we said, we understand why WeSpod decided to go Josh Allen at the 302. It's because he wanted to get that Stephon Diggs stack at the 211. But still, I think going with the quarterback in the 3rd round here is just going to be a little bit too rich when you can get a Russell Wilson in the 7th, when you can probably get a Joe Burrow even later than that. Okay, so Laviska Shenault at the 610. Now, Laviska Shenault was the wide receiver we were kind of considering where we took Juju Smith-Schuster. I was hoping he was going to fall to us at the 706. He was a lot further down in ADP. So maybe in a different format, we would have gone with Laviska over Juju. But I think in this one, we're fine letting that be. Okay, Dallas Goedert at 701. So it looks like the skill positional value is probably drying up. I mean, there are a few wide receivers that are interesting before we're about to hit that tier fall off. Tight end, Dallas Goedert was really the last guy in that tier as well. I don't necessarily love this Noah Fant pick here because I think what you're going to see is you're going to see tight ends available down here in the 12th, 13th be, I don't want to say in the same range as a Noah Fant, but be a lot closer to Noah Fant than the wide receivers will be compared to the guys that went in the 6th round. And trust me, this is coming from someone who does like Noah Fant. Okay, Nolan says, worried about Taylor with Mack coming back? No, I wasn't worried about Marlon Mack before, and definitely not worried about Marlon Mack after he has a torn Achilles. Guys, a torn Achilles is literally the worst injury a running back can have in the NFL. Literally the worst. There's nothing worse than a torn Achilles. Marlon Mack was a 10th of the running back that Jonathan Taylor was beforehand. I don't think Marlon Mack's any more talented than Jordan Wilkins after that torn Achilles because we know it literally just drains all the explosion that those running backs have. Okay, so now let's go through. Do we go quarterback here? I really don't want to because I think we're going to have guys available to us a lot later because we already have 6 quarterbacks off the board. So there are 6 teams with no quarterback right now. And if we go through the board, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. There are like 7 or 8 guys I'd be completely fine with having as our quarterback 1. So while Russell Wilson is intriguing to get him to stack with DK Metcalf, I think we're kind of fine because we have some other options to stack. We can get Joe Burrow. We can get Jalen Hurts. So I think at this moment, yeah, Russell Wilson does go at the 705. Planning on passing on him. Anyway, we could potentially look to get a win now running back. Like these running backs right here in a Myles Gaskin, a Chase Edmonds, they're rentals, nothing that are going to be long-term values, but at the same time, maybe that's what we kind of look for here with this roster construction. Now, wide receiver, going through. Maybe because we built this team so young already, we decide to get a wide receiver that could fit this construction. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. here, definitely not going to be considering him or Deebo Samuel. So I think we go down the draft board a little bit. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this selection, but we're going to be going with Elijah Moore at the 706. Now, that is our 5th wide receiver. So now we have 3 wide receivers for our wide receiver spots. We have 2 wide receivers for our flex spots. And now, if we draft any more wide receivers beyond this, they would project to be on our bench. But we know bye weeks, we know injuries, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, we are kind of clearing out that starting lineup where now we just need a running back, we just need a quarterback, and then we're good. Yeah, so it looks like some people wanted us to go with Russell Wilson, but yeah, it wasn't even available to us. I think we probably would have gone with Elijah Moore over Russell Wilson regardless, just because we have some stack potential later on. Even though that definitely was a quote-unquote reach, I love the prospect profile Elijah Moore is. I think he fits on this roster as a wide receiver 5. Now, Rondale Moore goes directly after at the 707. And I will say that Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore are definitely a lot closer now that Jamison Crowder actually restructures his contract and is coming back this upcoming year, because you looked at that situation and I thought there were going to be a lot of targets available if you didn't have Jamison Crowder in town, which based on his contract, I thought was a strong possibility. But he actually restructures. I didn't think he was going to cave. So Elijah Moore should see less targets and less usage in the slot this upcoming season. But beyond that, I mean, the talent is still there, still attached to Zach Wilson for the foreseeable future. So we're fine with him at the 706. Wesley says, used to 2 quarterback formats, I reached for Allen. Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I understand why you decided to go that way with Stephon Diggs, but I just think it was such a hard thing for me to actually kind of shake out of my system as well, because when we're continuously doing those redraft mock drafts over there on the main channel, and when we also did our high stakes redraft league through Patreon, I mean, I ended up taking Kyler Murray in the middle of the 6th there, and I thought it was fantastic value, but at the end of the day, I mean, we went through, we did a recap on the draft, and guys like Joe Burrow were going in the 13th round. So in a 1 quarterback league with how deep the position is, it just skews things so much where I definitely want to be passing on those 3rd, 4th round quarterbacks. Okay, so Nolan says, do you see Terrace Marshall making an immediate impact? With Terrace Marshall, he's essentially a wide receiver that's going to be there for when Robbie Anderson leaves this upcoming offseason. Robbie Anderson has 1 year left on his deal. Now, yes, Terrace Marshall, you can take him at the very end of your redraft league. You can take him in one of the last picks. But for a dynasty standpoint, from a redraft standpoint, don't be counting on him as a cornerstone asset for this season. He's more of a long-term bet on his talent. Okay, so Pittman Edmonds. Okay, so Joe Burrow does go at the 803. That's very interesting. I believe that's 5 rounds before he went in our redraft 1 quarterback league. But keep in mind, it's Joe Burrow. Of course, this is a guy that's going to be more valuable in Dynasty than in redraft. And also, you're looking at a tier right now where we have seen a massive, massive fall off. Even though I know a lot of people are probably screaming at us to draft a quarterback upcoming. I don't know if we can. And also, a big thing is, actually, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say maybe we're kind of regretting our George Kittle pick when we could have gotten a tight end later. But no, I think Kittle at the 306 is completely fine. I mean, we essentially passed up on the wide receiver we would have taken there would have either been Chris Godwin or Jamar Chase if we're talking Dynasty. And the wide receivers we're looking at in this range, I think, are a little bit closer to those options than the tight ends are to George Kittle. Okay, also, we just passed 60 likes on the live stream. Thank you so much for everybody going down there, dropping that like. And I believe we are probably one of the few channels left that are still actually making Dynasty content. I know a lot of the people that were making Dynasty stuff have quit and they have focused primarily on redraft. So yeah, we are going to continue to make our redraft content over there on the main channel. Oh, God dang, back to back, AJ Dillon and Michael Gallup. I thought that was going to be our direction. I thought we were getting one of those players. So now here, best running back available would be Mike Davis, but that's just a rental for this upcoming season. Not wide receiver. I think we do decide to go with the prospect over a rental if we do like the upside. And there is a guy that stands out to us here. But like I said, I understand that this is our wide receiver 6. So this guy's actually going to be the first player on our bench. We have yet to have a quarterback. We have yet to have a running back 2. And I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with this structure, but based on historical win rates, this is what you want to do. You want to get that anchor running back. You want to go through, and then you want to build around wide receiver in your wide receiver spots and your flex spots, and then take those high upside bets at running back at the end of the draft. So here we're going to go with Terrace Marshall. We just brought him up. Hollywood Brown would be intriguing as well, but the thing with this team is we built so young that we're kind of building for 2021 regardless where we go through, and we have Najee Harris, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Juju, Elijah Moore, and Terrace Marshall, all players that are either 24 years old or younger. So yeah, I think we're fine with that build right now. But AJ Dillon going, and SPAC coming in to the live stream, screaming at us to take AJ Dillon. Yeah, my man, probably super teams only right here. Okay, so Eric says, I don't think people should be so fast to rule out Robbie Anderson re-signing considering his Temple connection with Matt Rule. So who knows? That's definitely a great point, my man. That is something that we do need to consider because obviously there's multiple connections there. The Sam Darnold connection, the Matt Rule connection. That's a great point. Okay, so Hollywood Brown goes to the 808. Like I said, we could have been considering Hollywood Brown, but I think Terrace Marshall does fit this team better. Okay, so people are asking Robbie Anderson over Terrace Marshall, question mark. So yeah, I think in a redraft league, 100% of the time you're going with Robbie Anderson over Terrace Marshall. But like I said, guys, this is a dynasty mock draft. This is going to be for long-term value. I think that if you're thinking Robbie Anderson over Terrace Marshall in dynasty, that's most likely too short-sighted, especially with this team construction where maybe in a vacuum or maybe if I have a contending team, then yeah, we would be willing to go with the Robbie Anderson, but not in this format. Okay, so a big thing here also is there are only 1, 2, 3. Actually, let me just count how many teams have a quarterback so far. So there are 8 teams with a quarterback. So there are 4 teams without one. If we go over to the quarterback room, you got Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson, Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford, Tua, Zach Wilson, Ryan Tannehill. So I think we honestly continue to pass that quarterback, even though I know ADP says that Trevor Lawrence is by far and away the best quarterback available. I think it just doesn't necessarily make so much sense how this draft is shaking out. Okay, so now let's go through. And Nolan says Marshall's connection to Joe Brady is better than Robbie Anderson's connection to Matt Rule. Definitely, I think that's a big reason why they went out there and got Terrace Marshall. But like I said, I actually do like the point made by pointing out that Matt Rule and Robbie Anderson connection where they got him to sign there last year. Who knows? Maybe they actually bring him back one more. Because also DJ Moore is coming to the end of his own rookie contract as well sometime soon. I believe he only has 2 years left under that deal because he did have a 5th-year option. Okay, so Hollywood Brown, Robbie Anderson, Gesicki, Henry Ruggs, Mike Davis. Love that value on Mike Davis there. Like we said, I mean, if I had a contending team, I definitely would have considered taking Mike Davis over Terrace Marshall at the 807. But like I said, it's just everything to do with our roster construction at this point. Okay, Tyler Boyd, definitely the best value at wide receiver right now. It's interesting to see that fall. He does go at the 901 just as we bring that up. And that is going to be Jesse's, I believe, a wide receiver 5, because he starts the draft with Christian McCaffrey and Joe Mixon. So this is another win now team. I mean, you have CMC, Mixon, Evans, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Mike Davis, Tyler Boyd. I would argue that all of those are assets that are not necessarily long-term values. Okay, so now let's go through Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out at the 902. Nolan says, do you have a big tier gap between Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson? Not a massive tier gap. They are definitely in separate tiers, where if I pull up our rankings right now, at least I hope I have them in separate tiers. I should have them in second tiers. If not, we're definitely changing that. I believe what we're going to find is that TJ Hawkinson is in his own tier as the tier 2 tight end, and then we should probably go down. Let me pull up our Patreon rankings. Just double check to make sure I have that right. We need to fix this. So as of now, we have TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant in the same tier with Dallas Goedert, but that is not right. We're going to fix that right now, live on stream. I do want to have Mark Andrews in the same tier, so that's going to stay the same. We are up on the clock real quick, and really we shouldn't be in a situation where we're going wide receiver, especially there are no guys that scream as great values to me, so we can afford to start looking at running back. We can't go tight end again. The thing is, there's just nobody else I really want beyond a quarterback. I mean, I'm not taking Zach. My top running backs here would be Zach Moss, Damian Harris, Kenyon Drake, Tony Pollard. And I can't consider any of them over Trevor Lawrence. Even though it sucks, the people that are waiting on quarterback longer than this are probably going to get like a Jalen Hurts down here in the 12th, and we don't even have any stacks with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's just the best value available. So we're going to go Trevor Lawrence, even though I don't necessarily like doing it in a one quarterback format. I thought we were going to be waiting a lot longer than that, but this is our start. Also makes sense just with the team construction with how young it is. So Harris as our standalone running back for this moment. We have DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Juju, Elijah Moore, and Terrace Marshall as our wide receivers. We have an elite tight end in George Kittle, and we have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Okay. So yeah, let's go through. Let's change this. I'm just officially changing these rankings over here because we should not be having that issue where. Okay, let's move that. I just have to do this now because if I don't do it now, I'm probably going to forget. And okay, there we go. That is updated. Okay, so after we go Lawrence, Zach Moss, Brandon Cooks go off the draft board. Okay, so Rune says, you just kind of mentioned him, but what are your thoughts on Mike Evans long-term, putting him in a trade? Okay, Thomas says, every draft nowadays, you seem to always punt running back 2. A big thing is with running back 2, the problem is, if you look at historical hit rates, these guys that traditionally go in rounds 3, 4, 5, their win rates, at least over the past decade, have been significantly lower than wide receivers. I mean, wide receivers in that range have provided a lot higher floor and ceiling combinations. So I think going and trying to target those players is probably a better idea. You definitely can't go true zero running back. You have to get a guy at the very top of the draft. But wide receivers is much better value. I mean, of course, I'm going to rather have a T. Higgins in Dynasty over Chris Carson, or have a Devonta Smith over a Trey Sermon, or a Juju over a Kareem Hunt. But yeah, definitely that's going to be a big strategy thing that we have that I know a lot of people won't understand, and we're going to get so much hate for it through the course of this, the entire season. But I'm not really in love with anybody that you're going to be finding as your running back 2 in that range. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to Mike Evans. So with Evans, a big thing is he is tied to Tampa in a way that Chris Godwin isn't. So you could see Chris Godwin leaving this offseason. But another thing is you have to kind of just evaluate Tom Brady for the long term. And I know that's crazy to say because I'll be the first person to admit, yes, Tom Brady is by far and away the best quarterback of all time. Now, with that being said, and I know he just won the Super Bowl, guys, trust me, I'm moving to Tampa. I should be a massive Tom Brady fan. I should be a massive fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I can't get behind Tom Brady being an elite level quarterback for 2 to 3 more years. Now, I know that we've been saying that for the past 5 years, and by we, I mean literally everybody. And since he won the Super Bowl last year, you're not allowed to say that out loud anymore. But to be honest, guys, are you going to be expecting Tom Brady to be a 46-year-old quarterback still slinging it? I don't know if we can, but let me know what y'all are thinking because I know that's probably a contrarian opinion. Okay, we just got 70 likes on the live stream. Thank you, my dudes. Okay, Rock says, Mason, what team do you think will be the best in 2022 or 2023? Definitely mine. Najee Harris, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Juju, Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall. Trevor Lawrence. That's some long-term value right there. If this was a real league, I'd be looking to trade off George Kittle. Okay, so Irv Smith goes at the 10:04. Okay, so I think we're probably going to go running back here. Johnny Smith at the 10:05. The thing is, when you invest in George Kittle at the 3:06, a big reason you're doing that, if it's not tight end premium, is you're going, I'm not going to have to worry about wasting another roster spot on tight end. That's kind of the luxury it gives you and making sure you can go and you can hit some more running backs as those dart throws. And here, given the fact that this is Dynasty instead of redraft, in a redraft league, I would probably go Kenyon Drake, but in a Dynasty format, do we go Damian Harris? Yeah, I think we go Damian Harris. I don't love it. I think Damian Harris is definitely a low upside running back, given the fact that he essentially just stepped directly into the Sony Michel role. He really didn't have any usage in the receiving game at all. But here's a running back too. I think that's a pick that we honestly probably have to make. Rock says, what other team? Okay, so let's go through. Let's look at the teams. What team do you think is going to be better for 2022? Not the Derrick Henry, not that team. That's win now. This is a very interesting roster if we're talking about long-term value. I would argue most likely, actually, Jack Apples. Jack Apples definitely is the best team for 2022 and beyond. Having the core of Cam Akers, Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Kyle Pitts, I think that's fantastic. Now, that Amari Rodgers pick, I don't know if we can get behind that, but beyond the Amari Rodgers pick, I really like that beginning. Just having some long-term value. Okay, so Kenyon Drake does go there at the 10-11. That would have been a running back we would have selected at the 11:06 if he fell to us. See, this is the thing. We should have waited on quarterback. If we could have got a Trey Lance, we probably could get a Trey Lance here in the 14th round, which is ridiculous. I should have just drafted Mecole Hardman instead of Trevor Lawrence. But that's what sucks about a one-quarterback league is, try pressing Mecole Hardman, that draft button, before Trevor Lawrence without throwing up a little bit. It's something that I definitely have a hard time adjusting to because I don't have that experience in a one quarterback format as I used to. But it's crazy to see Trevor Lawrence going in the 9th round and not liking that pick. Dan says, I took Zach Wilson over to Deshaun Watson as Superflex startup. I'm playing for 2022 and ended up going with Wilson. What are your thoughts? You're playing for 2022. I think it's a high floor pick, but definitely a low ceiling selection. I don't like it really at all. Okay, so Mims goes at the 10-12, guys. Denzel Mims is dead. And Denzel Mims, I'd probably rather have Antonio Brown. I'd definitely rather have Diami Brown, Paris Campbell, maybe even Dwayne Eskridge. Denzel Mims running with the twos. Corey Davis signed there for a decent amount of money where he's guaranteed to be there the next 3 years. Also, Elijah Moore at the same time. They drafted him this season. Now, I know you could see Zach Wilson turning into a high-volume passer, and Denzel Mims was an okay prospect coming out of Baylor. But at the end of the day, this coaching staff didn't choose him, and he had a very subpar rookie year. Denzel Mims is dead to me. I would much prefer having Russell Gage, Paris Campbell, Trey Lance, Evan Ingram. Leonardo says, what do you think of Mike Davis at the end of the 6th for redraft? Just 2 wide receivers and 2 flexes. In a format like that, yes, you have to prioritize running back. Love getting Mike Davis at the end of the 6th. Okay, so now I think we probably hit running back one more time. Just because when you start like this and you punt running back, oh my God, are you kidding me? Tony Pollard would have been our guy. But a big thing is when you punt running back, I mean, when we go rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I mean, without taking our second running back, you're essentially going to be rostering a lot of them and just kind of getting as many darts thrown at the dartboard as possible, trying to find a Myles Gaskin, trying to find a James Robinson. So Tony Pollard definitely has that potential if anything would have happened to Ezekiel Elliott. But looks like we're probably going to have to pass on him. And Melvin Gordon is decent value here, but the problem is we're building a team for the future. We're not building a team for right now. Honestly, this is gross. We're probably just going to be making a pick we don't really like here, but we're going to be scrolling way down here and getting Darrell Henderson at the 1106. Running back on his rookie deal, a primary handcuff to Cam Akers in one of the best offenses in the NFL. Tony Pollard definitely was going to be the guy that I wanted there. Okay, so here's the draft board. And if you're watching this as a video later on, please let me know if y'all want to see more 1 quarterback leagues or more superflex leagues going forward. I just mainly did this because we have yet to do a single 1 quarterback mock draft. I believe this is our first one of the offseason. Okay, so people telling us they would have gone with Deshaun Watson at the 1106. The thing is with quarterback, I mean, you have Fields, Watson, Stafford, Tua, Wilson, Tannehill, all still available. I mean, one of those guys is going to be back in the middle of the 12th. I mean, if I wanted to go with the second quarterback, and that's the problem, and that's why I hate my Trevor Lawrence selection at the 906. And I knew I was going to hate it when we made it. We should have, honestly, I would have probably preferred going with just a Zach Moss. I'd prefer going with the McCole Hardman, really anybody else other than Trevor Lawrence in that range. Okay, so Diami Brown does go at the 1107. Then you have Raheem Mostert. But if you go through, you pull up best available. You got Melvin Gordon, then quarterback, tight end, just over and over and over again. Kenneth Gainwell, guys, do not ever fall into sleeper telling you that Kenneth Gainwell is a good value in this range. I don't know what's wrong with the sleeper ADP here, but Gainwell would be a disastrous selection if you're taking him right here at 124 overall. I mean, supposedly he's one of the best running backs available, but there are many other guys that I would prefer in this range over Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, especially if you go over here at wide receiver, I have no idea how they're trying to pump up Kenneth Gainwell to be better than a Zach Wilson, even a Devin Singletary, Ryan Tannehill, Cole Kmet, Alexander Madison, Gus Edwards, Tyler Higbee. I'd prefer having all those players over Gainwell. Okay, Leonardo says Dallas Goedert or Noah Fant for this year. They're actually ranked back-to-back in our redraft rankings, but I do think we're going to prefer having Dallas Goedert for the time being. Okay, so Justin Fields at the 1201. Is that Roster Bader's first quarterback? No, that's his second QB. Okay. Oh, so, and also it looks like Smitty here is on auto, so we can maybe assume that the Melvin Gordon pick wouldn't have happened, and maybe he would have fallen a little bit further, but he was by far and away the best value according to ADP, so we're not going to change that or anything. I'll get Palmer at the 1203. I think we possibly have to continue to hammer in running back here. But the problem is, guys, that actually there's something that I'm probably going to have to end up doing that's disgusting just because it goes against everything I believe in. But we will see. We will see. Actually, there are a few names that stand out to me. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. A big thing is when we have this start, if this was a real league and we could trade, I would definitely be committing to punt year one and I'd be going productive struggle. So I think that's how we kind of want to finish out this draft. I don't necessarily want to just go running back as if we were just trying to balance it out and we were trying to have a productive roster right away. If this was a real dynasty league, this would be a productive struggle team. Like I said, I didn't plan on it going in, but really liked the value where it fell to us. So I think based on that, we probably end up not even going with another running back upcoming. I think we just go with guys that we think are good values for where they're being drafted. Garrett says, when you're taking handcuffs instead of Melvin Gordon, you know he's dead. Yeah, no. Melvin Gordon at this point is pretty much a handcuff. Okay, so Alexander Madison at the 12:05. We were 2 picks away. Okay, so Ryan Tannehill here. So I think based on this team definitely being a productive struggle team, we are going to be deciding to go with a player that I think probably is the most long-term value. That's going to be Deshaun Watson as our second quarterback here in the middle of the 12th. But also, let me hide this little box. That way, first, let's see if there's anybody in the chat. Okay, so now let's pull this down so everybody can see the draft board. Now, please, guys, let me know what picks you think are reaches, what picks you think are good values. Because right now, I can tell you, I definitely don't like my Trevor Lawrence selection in the middle of the 9th. But beyond that, with our own picks, I really don't have any regrets that we were looking at. Maybe I would have preferred not going with the Damian Harris or Darrell Henderson and instead just going full on productive struggle and grab some wide receivers there. We possibly would have preferred. Okay, but yeah, it looks like Super Teams Only is the only guy who is yet to draft a quarterback, but there are still a lot of players available, so that is not a massive hindrance to him. Okay, so let's put this back on. We just passed 75 likes on the live stream. Thank you, my dudes. Thomas says, I think Justin Jackson is slated for a lot of goal line work this season. Thomas, man, let me know if you heard a blurb or something from that, because I don't agree with that at all, to be completely honest. Because if you look at Justin Jackson, he's literally one of the dead last running backs in the NFL in terms of his BMI. So I'd be surprised if he's used at the goal line, but I could easily be wrong in that sense. Okay, In says, thoughts on Aaron Jones in a PPR league this year? Should I be trying to work up trades before the season starts? Rodgers' situation / Dillon emerging has me a little nervous. The main thing you need to be worried about with Aaron Jones, in my opinion, obviously beyond Aaron Rodgers, because we all know that, it's not necessarily A.J. Dillon coming on and having a full-on breakout. While I love A.J. Dillon, that's not realistic to expect with Aaron Jones there, with Aaron Jones getting that contract. But what you can realistically, I don't want to say expect, but it's in the range of outcomes, and it would definitely hurt Aaron Jones tremendously, is what happens if they go, okay, A.J. Dillon, if we get inside the 5-yard line, you're our running back. You're our running back at the goal line every single time. Now that would kill Aaron Jones from having that top 3 running back overall upside like we have seen the past few years, because they've given Jamal Williams about 40% of the same touches in that backfield compared to Aaron Jones's 60%. And the reason that Aaron Jones has been so much more productive in fantasy beyond him just being a better running back is the fact that he gets the targets, he gets the usage at the goal line. Obviously, he's going to continue getting that over A.J. Dillon going forward. But the question is, what is he going to get at the goal line? I'm sorry, he's going to continue to get the targets. We know that, but we don't know about the goal line. Okay, Garrett says, is it crazy to have Zach Wilson ranked as quarterback 11 when Lance is quarterback 10 for me? I'll say Zach Wilson, I definitely prefer him more in a Superflex league where you need to have access to that. You need to have a high floor at the same time. You need to have the job security, and he does have job security. I mean, getting drafted number 2 overall, we have seen that guarantees him 4 years as a starting quarterback in the NFL level. It doesn't matter if he's as bad as Mitchell Trubisky. It doesn't matter if he's as bad as Sam Darnold. He'll be a starter for 4 years at the minimum. So in a Superflex league, that's very important. But in a 1-quarterback league, he really doesn't have the rushing upside that I would like to see. So I think there I wouldn't have Zach Wilson as my quarterback 10. Thomas says it's him or Roundtree at the goal line because Eckler will never get goal line work, but mostly just reports from camp and coach speak, no hard info. Let me look up the BMI on Roundtree. That's something that I honestly probably should know, at least have a better understanding of what we can expect from Roundtree in terms of the profile that he has. Because I know, Roundtree's also a slider running back. I mean, he's 5'11", 211 pounds, a 29.4 BMI. So there's no guarantee that he gets goal line usage either. That is definitely an interesting situation. I would say it's hard to say that Eckler is never going to get usage at the goal line. But anyway, KJ Hamler here at the 1306. I mean, KJ Hamler, one of the best values in Dynasty right now. I would prefer Hamler over Collins, Atwell, Eskridge, Palmer, and I don't know about Antonio Brown. On this roster, yes, but Christian Kirk, Diami Brown, Paris Campbell, I'd prefer KJ Hamler. I prefer KJ Hamler over Denzel Mims. Yeah, I mean, Hamler, I prefer him over Bryan Edwards. That's just a fantastic value. The youngest wide receiver in last year's draft was drafted in the middle of the second round, had a good rookie season. Now, yes, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant are going to be taking the majority of targets in that offense. But Hamler is a long-term bet given his age, and at the same time, we know Cortland Sutton could be gone this next year. Okay, Leonardo says, would you take Baker, Cousins, or Tua over the rookie quarterbacks for 2021? No, I would prefer having both Justin Fields and Trey Lance over them if we're talking about one quarterback redraft leagues. Okay, so Stevenson goes at the 1307. I do like that Stevenson value. Now, Tua Tagovailoa at the 1308 at super teams only. First quarterback off the board. Let's see what other quarterbacks are available. I mean, okay, yeah, so it looks like Tua was the last guy before a massive drop-off. Traquan Smith. Now, there's a lot of tight end value available. This is definitely making our George Kittle 306 pick not looking good at the moment. Garrett says he thought he sniped us on Nico Collins. My man, you know I really like Nico Collins. I drafted him a ton in rookie drafts this year. But no, I would definitely prefer having KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler is a better prospect profile, and he had that production this past year. Okay, so Javion Hawkins, Kenneth Gainwell. I'm fine with Kenneth Gainwell in this range. I just hate seeing Kenneth Gainwell getting drafted ahead of Darrell Henderson in some drafts, getting right next to Tony Pollard. I think that is just crazy. Okay, so we got one round left. At QB, honestly, can't consider drafting another quarterback here. You had that massive drop-off. And I'll say, a guy like a Baker Mayfield in a one-quarterback format is dead to me. I mean, I literally don't care about him whatsoever. No rushing upside. In Superflex, I understand the appeal in the job security, but in a one-quarterback league, that is a quarterback that I want nothing to do with. Okay, so Robert Tonyan goes at the 13-12. At running back, Gus Edwards is a great value here. I mean, especially for a contending team, Gus Edwards, Latavius Murray, definitely standing out in this range. Wide receiver, I mean, if you're talking about building around anybody long-term, I know some people are hyping up Van Jefferson, but my God, guys, Van Jefferson's about to be 25 years old. He was 24 years old at the time of the NFL draft last year. I mean, when he was drafted, he was older than Juju Smith-Schuster. Van Jefferson, at the time he was drafted, was older than Juju last year. That is ridiculous. Okay, so now let's go through, and Roster Baiter looks like he logged out without making this last pick. Hopefully he has someone in the queue so it's not just a complete straight up random auto. And what does our roster construction look like? I know it doesn't necessarily matter too much given the fact that we are a productive struggle team. But I think we can get away with taking a second tight end here. I mean, that's probably what I would do given the tight end value available right now. I mean, Logan Thomas was like the tight end 4 in points per game. Tyler Higbee, I hated him last offseason, but I think that this offseason he represents a great value. I mean, last year he was being drafted significantly higher than this. And on top of it, we know with Tyler Higbee, I mean, he has had so much change in his situation where he gets a massive quarterback upgrade. You actually have Gerald Everett going over to Seattle. So Higbee's in a much better situation, and he has a much smaller price tag. So yeah, I'm kind of all in on Tyler Higbee. Okay. So Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady, Quintus Cephas. Okay, yeah, so we're taking Logan Thomas here. Honestly, an easy pick. I understand that he's not necessarily an extremely young player in terms of fitting this overall construction, but this value is so good that there's no way I can pass on Logan Thomas in the 14th. Okay, so we got 80 likes on this live stream. Thank you so much for everybody coming out, hanging out with us. I will let this finish off. I'll hide my little screen. That way everybody can see it. Okay, so Elijah Mitchell, Adam Troutman, Philip Lindsay. And yeah, let's hide this real quick so everybody can see the full-on draft board. And yeah, please go to the comment section. Let me know your favorite team. Let me know some picks that stand out to you as either good or bad. Now, of course, you're not allowed to say anything bad about my team because nobody will ever do that on YouTube. Obviously, that's a joke. If you think one of my picks was bad, if you think I'm getting overhyped on Juju, let me know down in the comment section. And yeah, that should have been the draft board. I think everybody had a shot to screenshot it. So thank you, my dudes, for coming out. I really hope you enjoyed this mock draft. And on the 17th, we'll have our real Patreon startup draft getting kicked off. We'll have a lot more of those this offseason. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you drop a like on the live stream, or you're probably not going to get recommended the next one in the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, thank you, my dudes. I will see y'all with the video tomorrow.